guys, my name is Chrissy Shore, and today I'm going to talk to you about the animal care field. So what kind of animal care specialist are you, and what type of training did you have? So just to be clear, there are a whole bunch of different titles that fall under animal care. So some zoos will use zookeeper as the term. My actual title is zoo educator, but my job is primarily the animal care of our collection of animals. So I actually take care of ambassador animals, which are animals that go out on programs to schools, to daycares, to senior centers. If someone books a field trip to a zoo and wants animals at a presentation, those are the animals I take care of. So what type of training do I have? I have a 4-year degree, I have a bachelor's. And our field requires a lot of volunteer work. So I've done several internships at several different facilities, which were mostly unpaid. I did have a paid internship in there. They are hard to come by. And then I was a seasonal, which is a temporary worker, for several years before I got in. So it took me 5 years to get a full-time job. So it's a pretty tough field. What does a typical day look like for me? Well, there really is no typical day, although my main job is to care for the collection of animals, which is at about 50 right now. So my job is cleaning all of their habitats, giving them fresh water, creating their diets for them, feeding them, giving them different types of enrichment, doing any training with them, occasionally a program thrown in there. Every single day is different. So that's my main day. I do work 8.5 hours. The zoo is open for 7 of those hours. So there are visitors around. We are open all the time. We're only closed on Christmas, Thanksgiving, and New Year's Day. So there are always visitors around. But yeah, that's a typical day. You never know when you might need to respond to a medical emergency. So you got to be ready for anything. What made you decide to go into your field? Did you always know it was what you were meant to do? For me, it's going to sound a little silly. I don't think I had the best mentors growing up, or didn't receive a lot of mentorship in college. So I really didn't know what I wanted to do. I knew I loved science. I knew I loved biology. So that was what I chose to study. And I always had this dream I would live in Africa and take care of animals. I didn't even know how necessarily. But once I graduated college, someone said, hey, why don't you go intern at a zoo? And I was like, I don't know, why don't I? So I did. And it immediately clicked with me as what I feel I was meant to do. So it wasn't something I purposefully sought out to do. But, by trying different things, I realized I loved being around animals, taking care of animals, and then it all kind of fell into place. What courses did you find most beneficial in preparing you for your career path? I can't stress science courses enough. And I'm not just talking biology. Biology is obviously very helpful. But as much as everyone hates taking chemistry, chemistry does help. A lot of our job is administering medications and stuff like that. So it's good to have a base knowledge of that. Physics, another one people don't typically like, is quite helpful. You have to do a lot of troubleshooting, problem solving, physical stuff. Physics helps. And we're doing math all the time, calculating weights and dosages, all that kind of stuff. So really, any class you take in college probably has some sort of application to this type of field work. What extracurricular activities did you participate in outside of your regular coursework? So I didn't do a whole lot I wasn't really in clubs or anything, but I did travel through college. So I did go to Peru and take a class there, tropical ecology. And I created a playback experiment for some native bird species and did that for a few weeks. The following year, I went to South Africa, which I ended up getting credit for, but it wasn't really through school. And that really was amazing because I learned how to manage a reserve out there. And I also was an assistant scientist, research assistant for some of the programs they had going on out there. And that kind of gave me a really big appreciation for why I do what I do now. Now even if I don't teach a lot of classes myself, I take care of animals that enable the teachers to teach the classes, to inspire the next generation, to help save the world, to help save the places I went to go see and keep them as wild as possible. So that actually really helped me a lot. On top of that, I volunteered with my local Department of Environmental Protection, and did some different studies for them. I did an owl playback experiment. I did bald eagle surveying. So any kind of stuff like that you can do is great. I also volunteered at a local, very small sanctuary, and helped take care of their animals, all things that pushed me in the right direction for what I do now. How did you maintain focus to study and prepare for your exams and other coursework in your schooling? My biggest suggestion is kind of find what works for you. For me, I did really have an interest in kind of all of the classes I took. So if you're signing up for classes, you just need credits, pick things you really like. Obviously, you have your required courses. You don't have a choice. You have to take those. But I took like a history class that I just found super fascinating. And that made it not feel like work and gave me more to focus on my science classes that might have been a little bit more difficult for me. My personal little trick was I took notes by hand in class, and then I went home and I either rewrote them or retyped them. And for me, that repetition and focus helped me have to study less for the exams, just because I learn by writing and by rewriting. So I came up with some other questions that I hear a lot in my field that I thought I would answer for you in case you might have them yourself. Aren't I just a glorified pooper scooper? Get that one all the time. And yes, cleaning up after animals involves picking up poop. But it involves so much more than that most people don't realize. So you have to be very highly organized. I maintain records for all of my animals, which means I know when every single snake ate. I know when every single of my animals went to the bathroom last, because snakes don't poop that often. You have to know all that kind of stuff. You have to have a very focused way, because I'm not there 7 days a week. So the person that's there when I'm not there has to know where to write down that information. So you have to be very highly organized to manage that kind of thing. You need problem solving and attention to detail, which if you were just picking up poop, you might not need. But yeah, the attention to detail is really important to see if an animal might be acting a little off. You can pick up on it sooner than if you're just kind of changing newspaper in a tray and walking away. You really got to pay attention. You have to be self-motivated. I've only worked at a few facilities, but there's no one really asking you if you did your daily work. So you have to be responsible to yourself and your animals to get everything done to the best of your ability every day. And be really in charge of that kind of stuff. We get lots of surprise inspections from USDA. And you have 5 minutes notice before there's an inspector in your area checking to make sure your animals have the best care. There's no cobwebs. So you really got to be on top of that all the time. You really need a willingness to get dirty. I do a lot of landscaping in this job. You have to take the trash out. A high percent of what I do is washing dishes and washing enrichment. I've stuck my arm in drains to unclog drains before. You will get very dirty. I actually just did a clean on a substrate for my millipedes, and there were tiny little cockroaches all throughout it. So you might feel a little gross. But yeah, you just have to be willing to get dirty in this job, or you probably won't last very long in this field. And the other thing that people tend to forget when they assume we just pick up poop is you have to be amazing at communication. So I send out animal updates to everyone in my department, to all the senior staff and to the vet staff pretty much weekly. And I have to if something happens with an animal, I have several people I have to notify. If something happens to an animal, not only do I have to let, the senior staff, the vet staff, and my coworkers know, but because I work with the ambassador animals, there are volunteers and docents and interns that have all grown close to these animals and need to possibly know as well. And you'd phrase an email differently if you're telling the vet staff versus if you're telling your coworkers versus if you're telling a lovely 70-year-old person who comes to volunteer with these animals. So communication skills, writing skills, very important. Another really popular thing I hear in terms of questions is, okay, so I hate people and love animals. I should be a zookeeper, right? And the answer is, sorry, no. Um, whether or not you're an educator or you're just a zookeeper that takes care of the animals, you will be talking to people. You will be giving keeper talks. You might be going on TV. You might be getting interviewed for a newspaper. You will be talking to the public. You will be having your words either broadcast on Facebook or doing a video like this for me. You will be talking to people, and you will be working with people. I can't tell you how many times in my career we have had to restrain an animal for some reason, like giving a pig a vaccine or a blood draw, and you need 8 people to work as a team, sometimes without words, to take care of that animal. And if you start to get tired and you let go, another person can get hurt or the animal can get hurt. So you have to work really well with people, really closely with people, sometimes a little too closely with people, to succeed in this field. And it's very, very important. Another one I hear often, don't you just cuddle or play with the animals all day? The answer is no. Yeah, that is not something that you will even have time to do. For me in particular, I take care of 50 animals and I have a partner. So the two of us work together 3 days a week. Then we're alone 2 days. So I have that many animals to take care of 2 days out of the week by myself. So on the days that I have my partner, we do projects. I'm not saying it never happens. It's just not something that people just assume you hang out with animals all day. And really you're washing dishes, taking the trash, sweeping, cleaning your cobwebs, doing paperwork, creating diets, handing out diets, doing meds. There's a lot more involved. Does it get boring? I feel like I may have answered that one. It does not get boring ever. Especially working in Connecticut, the seasons change. So a typical summer day is completely different from a typical winter day. There are days when certain staff members are in, certain staff members are out. There's a day I do a program. I've gone on TV a couple times. It's different every time. I've been asked to go to the World Wrestling Federation building to do a program there. It's fun. It's exciting. It's never boring. Even if I have a week of days that nothing exciting happens, it's not boring because you're taking care of living beings who have moods. And, sometimes they're in bad moods, sometimes they're in great moods. And you just never know what you're going to get with them. And some might say that's bad, but I think it's great. So now I actually have some words of advice. I have another aspect of the job I haven't really talked about too much is actually mentorship, which is something that is part of the job completely. If you work at a large zoo, which I work at a small zoo, but any kind of zoo setting, you typically have interns. And interns come in and it's your responsibility to teach them, is this the field for me? And so I always do my best with interns to show them all aspects of the job. So sometimes they're just sitting there watching me do something because I want them to know this might be something you have to do. And if you can't do it, can you be in this field? For me, I think if you told me 11 years ago that I would do the things I'm doing today, I would have never believed you. But now it's normal and natural. And so, yeah. So some of the advice I have is prepare yourself for silly questions or ridiculous things that people will say to you because you are a professional and people do look to you. So even if you hear the question, does it bite, 4,000 times, you have to smile and answer every time. And, you can't be rude just because you've answered that question already. That happens a lot. You hear that one, does it bite, all the time. You'll also get, is it real, when you're carrying an animal around for a program? Or is it dead? Why would we bring a dead animal out for you? I don't know, but we get that one a lot. Do you take it home? No, I don't take my boa constrictor home with me at night. I don't know why that would be a thing, but you get that question a lot. And my absolute favorite thing to hear is when parents tell their children, if you don't go to college, this is where you'll end up. And it's such a misconception because, as I mentioned before, I worked 5 years to get into this field. So it's very difficult. Another really important thing that I wish someone had told me when I was starting out is don't forget to take care of yourself. Obviously, this field attracts really compassionate people who want to make a difference, either in the lives of the individual animals they're working with or, save the world. And you tend to put yourself in the back seat. And that's a really dangerous thing to do. There's something called compassion fatigue. It happens in many fields. It is rampant in the animal care field because you bond with your animals, you love your animals, they deserve the best. They do, but so do you. And by skipping lunch to do something extra for your animals every day, you're only harming yourself, which then in turn harms your animals. So my main suggestions for that, it's really important to have someone to talk to about things. I mean, animals die. I've had 70 something animals die in my career, and none of them were traumatic accidents that happened. A lot of them were old, a lot of them were sick, some of them died unexpectedly and there were no reasons. And that stuff's hard to deal with. And a lot of times, and things are changing, but a lot of times management implies you can't have feelings about it, and that's impossible. You do have feelings about it. So it's important to have someone to talk to, someone to vent to, and I actually recommend someone in the field and someone out of the field. It's really good to have someone that you don't have to explain the nuances to. Having a work animal die is not the same as a pet, which a lot of people think it is. So it's really helpful to have someone in the field that understands. However, it's also good to have someone completely disconnected from the field, from your job, that you can talk to about this stuff as well. Another important thing is having hobbies that don't relate to animals. It is hard because you love animals. You just want to take as much in as you can and learn about them. And, that's great. Do that. But have something like knitting or running or something as an outlet, just so you can sort of distance yourself and remind yourself that your job is not who you are. That's a big thing in our field that happens. Another huge thing I can't recommend enough is try different stuff. You might think you want to work with big cats. I was that person. I thought I only want to work with big cats. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to be a tiger keeper. That's it. And now I work with raptors. I work with parrots. I work with doves, chinchillas, rats, rabbits, a bobcat, multiple species of snake, small lizards, medium lizards, large lizards. I take care of feeder bugs. I take care of cockroaches. I take care of frogs, salamanders. I take care of millipedes, as I mentioned before, tarantulas, scorpions. These are not things I would have ever put on my list of animals I wanted to take care of, and I absolutely love taking care of them. I grew up being afraid of bugs, and now I'm the one holding roaches going, look how cute. It's really just try things. Just try things. Try a big zoo, intern at a big zoo, intern at a small zoo, intern at a sanctuary, intern at a nature center, at a rehab center, like really see all aspects of the field. You never know what you're going to connect with. I thought I would be a big cat keeper, and I'm not, and I'm still quite pleased with the way my career has gone. So just try things, just keep trying. Another thing that's pretty tough in this field is keep in mind you are an essential employee. So what that means is you probably won't have Saturday and Sunday off. You will have weird days of the week off because your animals need care 365 days a year. So if you're lucky and you have a big staff, you don't have to stress too much, but you will be there at least 5 days a week. So I personally have Fridays and Saturdays off, but I'm there every Sunday. I've missed several family things. I can take days off, but my animals need me. I am there when we get a snowstorm. I have slept at the zoo. You have to get to work some way because your animals rely on you. So you are an essential employee. And with COVID-19, we never stopped working. The state shut down and we were going to work. We had letters in our car saying we were essential employees in case we got stopped, and we worked through the whole thing. So just keep that in mind. It takes a lot of dedication. And of course, if you work at a good facility, you have time off, you can take your time off. But in general, you'll probably miss a couple family things. I go in on Christmas, I go in on New Year's, I go in on Thanksgiving. I just am not there all day. But some zoos are different. Some keepers have to work the whole holiday. So just keep that in mind. And if it's not something you're willing to do, I kind of love going in early and seeing all their sleepy faces and taking care of them. Even on its Christmas morning, I'll wear a little hat. It's just got to be something you're really passionate about. It's a very difficult field. My biggest piece of advice is don't give up. And I mean that in a general sense, but I also mean it in a individual sense. So within my first couple of weeks working with raptors, a small hawk grabbed my hand and held onto my tendons, and it hurt so much. And I was afraid to work with the birds after that. And I don't like being bad at things. So I decided I'm just going to keep going, keep trying, keep doing it until I'm good at it. And now I teach other people how to handle raptors. I've taught people from other facilities how to care for raptors, how to handle raptors. And it's no big deal to me now. It's super easy because I kept at it and didn't give up. So don't give up. And don't give up in the field because, again, it took me 5 years to get in. That is an average amount of time. You will get used to rejection with your resumes and job applications because everyone wants your job. Everyone wants the job you're applying for. They'll get hundreds to thousands, depending upon the facility, of applications for a job opening. And you might not make it to interviews. And if you make it to interviews, there's probably 5 other people that are getting interviewed. And if you make it to a working interview, there's 2 people. You have to get used to rejection, but don't give up. Just keep going and you will get in the field. So with that being said, just try hard to enjoy the experience. I worked at a sanctuary that housed big cats and bears, and I did not enjoy the environment. I did not enjoy the people I worked with, but I genuinely really loved all the animals, and I still count it as a positive experience. I lived on a sanctuary with big cats. Not many people can say that. So just try really hard to maintain a good attitude about it. You're probably going to work with animals, people, facilities you don't like, and that's okay. It's just something, it's part of the experience. You'll learn from it. You'll learn, I don't want to work at a sanctuary that's like that one. I don't want to do rehab. I don't want to work at a small facility. I hate making diets. I'd rather have my diets made for me by a commissary keeper than you go to a big zoo. I personally like the small zoo whole aspects. I know what the animals got for their diet that day. I like that whole experience, but don't give up. Just keep trying. And lean on your elders. We all have great advice. We've all been through it. The field has never been easy. I think it's getting a little more difficult. But yeah, keep trying. That's my biggest advice.